Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We're following on from our earlier coverage of the WWE 2K22 showcase trailer. We now have an extended version of the trailer, with the second half of that going on to feature MyRise. So in this video, we're going to go through the MyRise section of the trailer and break down what we can, but if you missed the previous coverage of the showcase section, then I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video. So let's break down the new footage of MyRise, starting out with this shot of the main menu, as this clip gives us a look at the new menu in full, where we have tiles for Exhibition, Showcase, Universe Mode, MyGM, MyFaction and MyRise. When the MyRise tile is selected, just as we've seen with the Showcase tile, this leads to a special transition screen which takes us into the mode. From there, we get our first look at the women's MyPlayer as we see her arriving at the Performance Center, with this shot taking place in the parking lot of the new Backstage area. We then cut to a shot of the WWE Performance Center where we see two custom players facing off in the ring as Shawn Michaels watches on at ringside. As we switch back to the women's MyPlayer, here we get a shot of the locker area within the Performance Center as the MyPlayer asks who she needs to impress. We then switch over to gameplay with the first clip showing her making an appearance at Money in the Bank, before we then see her take down Becky with a crossbody from the top rope. We then cut to the crowd as the text notes that players can rise through the ranks of WWE before we head back to the ring to see the MyPlayer making an entrance at TLC. Switching back to the backstage area, we find ourselves back in the parking lot with Sonya Deville as the MyPlayer attacks her from behind. Whilst this shot is only short, one thing it does do is give us another look at the backstage area, as the area to the right is the interview area with lighting and a TV, whilst the corridor shown on the left is the end of the area, as in the version that I played, this corridor had an invisible wall to stop you accessing it. As the camera switches, we get a look at another part of the parking lot, however this area isn't actually accessible. At this point in the trailer, we switch back to ringside with some quick clips of the MyPlayer in action as we see Becky applying the disarmer, before we then switch to SmackDown as she takes out Shayna with a backbreaker. From there, we find ourselves in what appears to be an updated version of the Mexico Plaza from WWE 2K19, which would appear to suggest that the MyRise story will see you work the indies. The interesting thing here though isn't the return of the Mexico arena, as what I want to draw your attention to is the crowd, as if you take a look at the crowd on the right hand side, you can see that 2K have gone to great lengths to try and hide some of the crowd shirts, as this shirt design has been blurred to try and obscure it. However, it's pretty clear that this is a Miz and Morrison shirt. Following another heavily blurred crowd shot, we find ourselves back at the Money in the Bank arena with the MyPlayer now hanging from the briefcase, before we get another blurry crowd transition that takes us over to the MyPlayer creation screen. Here we see a list of the starting classes that you can choose from when selecting your MyPlayer, with the options available including Striker, Technician, Powerhouse and High Flyer. Underneath the class options, we also have a preview video that shows examples of superstars that fall under that selected class, with this footage featuring another release star in Samoa Joe. Getting back to gameplay, we see another custom character making an entrance in the Raw arena, before it's back to crowd shirts and the note that players can make a decision that will determine their fate. As with the Mexican crowd, a lot of the shirts in the foreground are blurred, likely as they too feature references to stars that were removed, yet one of the most visible shirts in this shot shows off the Iconics. As we cut back to another shot of the MyPlayer at the Performance Center, the voiceover has the MyPlayer state that she'll pick Sasha, leading to footage of a one-on-one match between the pair, in which Bayley can be seen to toss Sasha a pair of brass knucks. As we move on to the next clip, here we see the MyPlayer teaming up with Bianca Belair on Raw, as we see them make their way to the ring using one of the generic tag entrances, before we then cut to footage of a TLC match in the Raw arena for the Women's Money in the Bank briefcase, where we see the MyPlayer put Bayley through the table with a suplex. As the trailer draws to a close, we get some 6-woman action as we see Lacey Evans, Bayley, Natalya, Sonya, Shayna and the MyPlayer all squaring off, before we then switch over to SmackDown where we see the MyPlayer take out Asuka. The bigger reveal here though is the presence of an alternate version of Alexa Bliss, as this model is different to the one that was featured in Exhibition, therefore this would appear to confirm that Alexa has a second attire which can be unlocked in MyRise. The trailer then cuts back to the backstage area where we see more of the MyPlayer attacking Sonya, with this shot taken just in front of the elevator, with the interview area again shown off in the background. Also visible in the distance, you can see the corridor that I mentioned earlier, as this is the area that features an invisible wall, as the vending machine is as far as you can go. Meanwhile, back at ringside, here we see Natalya enter the ring before we quickly find ourselves back amongst the crowd, watching over the action as the MyPlayer taunts to end the trailer. So that's a breakdown of the MyRise trailer, if you can really call it a breakdown, as there wasn't really too much to cover, which is probably down to all of the releases, though it does make me question if there are other release stars that make appearances in the mode, and that is somewhat limited 2K as to what they can show, as it was strange to see nothing from the male side other than the creation suite. So it's an odd one, I'm not gonna lie, I think this was probably the worst reveal trailer that we've had, but I know the releases are a big part of that, especially when they go to the lengths that they did to blur out the crowd shirts. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to leave this one, but let me know what you make of the reveal in the comments, and while you're there, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications to stay up to date with all the latest news on WWE 2K22. Until next time though, thank you so much for watching this video, have yourself an awesome day, and I'll catch you later.